Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Women Techmakers Montreal Podcast. I'm Stefania, and with me there are.
Hello everyone, I'm Leticia and I'm a volunteer here at Women Techmakers Montreal. And today we are going to explore the world of data careers and the realities of changing paths in tech, the challenge, growth, and everything in between. And yeah, Steph, you want to say something?
Yeah, so today we have Angie with us. I can present her, but I think it's better for Angie to present herself in her amazing way.
Awesome. So, my name is Angelica or Angie. You can use that interchangeably, whatever you prefer. And I've been working in tech for about 4 years. Before that, I used to actually work in accounting. That's what I studied at Concordia. But I quickly realized that I didn't really like it so much. So I decided to switch into tech. And that's been quite the journey so far. So hopefully we get to dive a little deeper into it.
And it's super interesting because during our event, we have a lot of people that asking about how they can change career and especially the transition phase. So I think this episode will be so interesting for so many people out there. When we talk about changing careers, I also did some switch in my life. I know that it is challenging. It is challenging for you and also in general to plan what you have to learn, also how to present yourself. So what helped you navigate this transition? And especially, when you change career, we know that our skills can be transferred too, but sometimes we suffer from imposter syndrome because we think, I just landed this new role. So how are you facing this?
So I would say, first of all, when I decided to make the switch, I definitely didn't know anything about tech. Like it was a learning experience, and I didn't have that many tools at my disposal, like a LinkedIn or, the people in my entourage. So I think that the first step to do is to really try to find people in the industry to ask them questions and try to go to events. I decided to get a little bit more of a formal education just to bump up my CV a little bit because I didn't know how to code. So I went back to school. I went back to McGill, and I did a certificate like part-time just to, meet people and see what's out there. And when I was working in accounting, the thing is I didn't like what I was doing, but it forced me to ask myself, well, okay, what elements of my job do I like? What do I not like? And what do I see myself doing? Because I had to think about the future, and I felt like I was almost starting all over to zero because at that point, my degree was a little bit useless. I was like, okay, well, I want to go into tech and I want to code and I don't know how to do that. So I would read LinkedIn posts, for example, and be like, okay, like data analyst is something that I want to do. It corresponded a little bit to like the reportings that I wanted to do. And I started to see a pattern that, all right, I need to learn SQL and Python and Power BI and Tableau, and all the job descriptions were really similar. So that was able to direct me, and I created like a focus of like, okay, these are some of the skills that maybe I should focus on because there's so many languages you can learn and so many tools and softwares that you can learn. So I think just kind of narrowing it down really helped me. And after that, there's also a little bit of luck involved, I think, in changing careers. I was willing to take a junior position and take a pay cut and try to really start from the bottom just to learn the core competencies that were necessary for the role that I wanted to do. And I got super, super lucky that my first job, it was at a place called Cookit. We were a super small team, and we had a really modern data stack. We were using like Fivetran, Snowflake, dbt. These are tools that are really widely spread, used in like big data, in companies that take their data seriously anyways. So that was super cool. And I got really lucky in that sense that I learned how to code. I learned how to use GitHub on the job. And the next step for me was, I was still a junior when I left Cookit. And when I started at Maxa, the reason I picked Maxa is because I wanted to be in a place where I knew that I would have seniors and mentors, and I would continue using the best tools and following the best practices. Because early in my career in tech, I really wanted to focus on solidifying my technical skills. And I knew that that's how I was going to beat the imposter syndrome, in the sense that if I know how to do things and if I'm deep in the technical part, then if one day I want a managerial role, or if I want a leadership role, or if I want to be able to teach juniors, well, I will have done it, and I will have confidence in myself in that regard. I also think that imposter syndrome is very variable from one person to another. I'm someone who feels it a lot, no matter what I do. So I think that's a little bit the things I would tell someone is to try to not just focus on your entourage, talk to people outside of your entourage, maybe try to get some type of formal education if you can, even like boot camps or whatever, something that's a little bit more standardized, and don't try to learn everything. Try to really focus on things that you know will take you in a direction that you want to head in. I wanted to be a data analyst. I do not do that at all. I'm technically almost a data engineer, but I'm not an engineer, of course, so I'm a developer. But even within my journey, I ended up shifting into something else. So it really is to embrace the discovery process, I would say.
Yeah, I really connect with that because I also changed career in tech. I came from civil engineering, and in the beginning it was really, really hard. I remember crying just trying to understand Python, and for loops felt like, oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, Python is not easy. With the syntax and all of that, sometimes it can be really tough.
Yeah, but what helped me was focusing on small wins. So every project or every new concept I learned gave more confidence, reminding myself of the progress and the value I bring to the team makes a difference. So yeah. In tech, things move fast and also expectations are high, right? So question for you, how do you find the right balance between constantly learning and also delivering results?
It's honestly really tough because the industry is moving like super fast, like bullet train fast. I think that in my case, I think that learning is something that's very specific to everybody. I think that we all have different learning styles. And I know that, for example, I have colleagues that will read articles online. They love that. They read Medium articles, or they read community articles from these softwares that they're posting, or, conversations on Reddit. There's so many ways of consuming knowledge. I personally prefer a, once again, more formal approach. I'm done a lot of certificates in the past. So I'm, for example, Snowflake certified. I'm getting my DBT certification. I also really like reading, but I like reading like not random articles here and there, but I started reading Fundamentals of Data Engineering, which is really like a published book that you learn that's like official academic. So that's fun because it's I didn't study engineering in school, and I know that this is what they're reading. And honestly, when I read it, it's really insightful. And that's also like a way that I like to consume and learn. I think that it also depends on where you work. I work at a company where they really embrace, for example, like coding with AI and stuff like that. And it's hard to navigate the balance, but we have like tools at our disposal and they pay for our certifications. So that does enable me to take that route to learn. But to deliver, I mean, it can be really tough. I think sometimes in our industry, we have no choice but to put time outside of work. If we want to, it's not just in our 40 hours, but to kind of keep an interest outside. I subscribe to a lot of pages on LinkedIn, for example, just to see what's going on in the industry and new technologies. So I think that you need to have a natural curiosity and a willingness to embrace innovation as well, because it's not like you can just learn one thing and stick to that forever. You have no choice but to always constantly adapt and learn new things. And it kind of happens naturally as well, because everyone else around you is doing it.
Yes, I also, as you said, learning is something that it depends on the person. I also have my different style. For example, I cannot learn if I don't apply immediately what I'm looking.
I agree with that.
I will not remember. Okay, I cannot understand really what is happening, so I really need to experiment. So it's interesting how we have different points of view on how we can learn. And you mentioned about AI and AI tools. So we know that right now AI is also used to learn, also to make sure that in some way we can be more productive or faster. I would like to know, in your experience, how do you see the use of AI? I will say the impact both on junior developers who still need to build strong foundation data, but I will say also in intermediate or advanced developers.
So although I said that everyone has like a different learning style, I do think that there's a part of learning that is supposed to be a little uncomfortable, a little difficult, a little like I think the learning process is something that takes time, it takes repetition, it takes application. So I really agree with what you're saying. Where same, I mean, I'll read things, but or I might learn something new, but it's only once I've applied it, and sometimes once I've applied it multiple times that I really understand it, and then I'm able to take it to the next level, I would say. And I think that AI is tricky because what it does is you skip that. It's a shortcut, and you can communicate with it, and it can, for example, if you want to debug something, it might give you answers, and you don't have the tools to know if those answers are correct or not. They work a lot of the times, but do they follow best practices? Are they optimized? Is it really the smartest way to go about something? So I do think that, unfortunately, for junior developers, they're a little bit in a tricky spot because it's so easy to skip the hard, grueling work of reading Stack Overflow or going through pages of different solutions and trying to figure things out and constantly trying something. Oh, failed, debug, try again until you find something. It's so easy to skip all of that and to go straight to asking the question, getting a couple of answers, picking the one that looks the best or the easiest, not really understanding what's happening, and then implementing that, and then, skipping the learning process. So I think that there's this middle ground where I think that I would recommend people to use it as a tool to give you areas of search, and then to look into those, and then to understand what you're writing, the code. If you have to debug that 2 years later, you need to know what you wrote, be able to explain it. And that's why working in organizations where you have seniors where you go through a rigorous, for example, PR review, or when you're pushing code, people are reviewing it, and if someone's like, I don't agree with this, to be able to back up what you said. I mean, this is something that you're publishing and others can review and others will use. So I think that it's finding that sweet spot. And I think that it's a work in progress right now. I think we're all trying to figure out that sweet spot between, like Letitia said, like delivering fast and understanding your code and leveling up your skills. So, and using AI, of course. So that's the approach I try to go with, where like, instead of always looking online, I want to go a little faster. I'll see what my AI tells me. I'm like, okay, that makes some sense. I'll go dig a little deeper, but I still need to be able to back up what I push.
I agree with you. I think we can't depend only on AI. I would say it's important to learn the basics first.
Yeah.
AI can help a lot with projects and make us more productive. But for example, for juniors, I would say the best way is to use AI as support, as you said, to get topics or ideas, but then go deeper and study the subject by yourself, and use AI as a tool for search, not as the only way to learn. Right?
Exactly. And I know Stefania also said, like, for intermediate and like senior, like I consider myself more or less intermediate, and I think that like I'm still trying to figure out the sweet spot, but I'm actually quite grateful that AI didn't exist when I was a junior, because it was super hard learning to code from scratch, learning Git. It was super, super hard, but it's what makes me good now. It's what makes me understand, and I can debug a lot faster. You have reflexes, and you're able to see things from a different perspective because you've gone through so many scenarios, and you have a little bit of that the PTSD of when things weren't working, and you know when to avoid certain problems. So it creates these instincts that I think that you end up skipping if you're a junior who just goes straight to AI to answer your questions. And ultimately, I think that seniors are the ones that can really thrive from this, like the ones that have 10, 15 plus years, that have literally written code by hand and now have this tool. I think that they're the ones that will truly benefit, because it really just accelerates them. Personally, that's how I see it, where I feel like if you throw them a new problem, they've probably already seen it. The AI will give them something, and then they can maybe just optimize, rewrite, review, and push. So I think it's really the senior developers that are in the best position right now.
Yeah, and it's we also know right now, even if there are not a lot of studies out there, but however they are starting to be there, that however rely too much on AI, no matter if it is for development, but also for other stuff, can decrease your skill to learn, because basically you will not have enough time to process the information and to make it yours. So it's interesting to see that, okay, you can use AI, but then you have, however, to do your work and make sure that you can really learn as only you can do that kind of topic. And at the same time, honestly, sometimes like we need to remember that AI is based on patterns and the data that has been trained to. And we also know that in programming, or when we use, for example, Python packages, then we will have new updates. And it's not sure that the AI will have the last update. So sometimes you spend more time trying to understand why it's not working because there was something that was deprecated, than just search and see on the documentation how that package works.
Yeah, of course.
So,
like just to like, when something's not working, like, did you look at the status updates of that thing? Is a reflex that you develop without AI. That should be your first instinct, but we can't go to that as first instinct all the time. It shouldn't be the first step. It can be maybe the second or the third, but to have, to know where to look before going straight to an AI is a valuable skill.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that was so interesting, and I'm very happy to be here with another developer. So it's like, it's refreshing, right?
Yeah. It's fun to talk about more technical things. In my entourage, I don't have that many people. So when I talk about Git and commits and pushing code, it's not the most interesting to them. So it's nice to talk to people that this can resonate with.
Yeah, it's true. So thank you so much for sharing your experiences, insights, and especially tips for juniors out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's extremely important to share this kind of lesson learned.
Of course.
And Leticia, what you would like to say?
I just have a quick reminder before we go. Well, you can expect... sorry?
The usual one.
The usual one, yeah. You can expect a brand new episode every month from Women Techmakers Montreal Podcast. And yeah, we'll be covering a variety of topics across tech, design, data, and beyond.
And life. And life. We will talk about life.
Yeah, life. Yeah, exactly.
Human experiences in general.
Yeah.
And other news, mark your calendar again. So we will be back in person on April 18 in Montreal for Women Techmakers International Women's Day. We are also actively searching for sponsors. So if you want, if you know any companies that want to support us, we will be more than happy to talk with them. It's a big event, more than 400 people. And it's an event to learn, but especially to meet maybe your next colleague. Who knows? So thank you so much for listening, and we will see you in the next episode.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening. Thanks so much, Angie, and see you next time. Yay!
Bye!